I hear this phrase, hey, be first, be early, first mover advantage. I just want to tell you, I hate being first mover. I think first mover is terrifyingly exposing. In fact, many cases where their first movers don't actually even make it. This is the problem with first movers. For instance, Bitcoin. I came into Bitcoin relatively early, and Bitcoin is the only thing that the only industry or company or product I've ever seen that was the first mover, created the idea, was the first mover, is still the dominant player, and the only industry I've ever invested in as a first mover. I do not like first movers. I think they have a lot of exposure, and the exposure comes from they set the standard. Let's say Bitcoin sets the standard, and then Solana takes shots at it. Ethereum takes shots at it. BSV takes shots at it. Roger Ver farms the company. Everybody wants to make first thing better, or they go attack areas that market was attempting to penetrate, and they attack other areas. For instance, XRP, their deal is, well, we're going to become the SWIFT system. So everything starts attacking. And this has been happening in Bitcoin since almost day one. Bitcoin's still King Kong. Okay, there's been not one in 15 years. The Godzilla of crypto is Bitcoin. King Kong, Godzilla on nuclear freaking radioactive fusion, and everything else is attempting to be, but basically just a shit pile of skids all along a long 15-year industry of underwear, like just leaving skids all over the place while Bitcoin continues to perform. I think the reason for that is, one, you don't have any human errors in Bitcoin. You don't have human risk. You have only so many things that can change in Bitcoin, where everything else has some human error risk. Ethereum being, in my opinion, 600 billion. I think there's $600 billion, maybe 300, I don't know, 300 to $600 billion valuation, run by a young man. And don't start even talking to me about how decentralized this company is in 4 years, 5 years. There is no company that size that created redundancy in management teams, redundancy in protocols, redundancy in like all levels of management. It's 5 years old, guys. I'm not going down that path. That's a young company, $300 billion. Everything can go wrong. 300 billion things can go wrong for Ethereum. So for instance, I could have gone to work for Enron or an energy company. I went to work for a small shop, 12 people, called Natural Gas Clearinghouse. Wasn't the first mover. We supercharged that space. Built a business in the chargeback fraud space for credit cards. 35 years into an industry, right? See, for me, I'm more interested in not first mover. I'm more interested in, hey, all these solutions, if the market is big enough, and now this is the thing with me. I go into really, really, really large industry. Most people aren't comfortable doing that. By me going into a really large industry, what it affords me is 10, 15, 20, 30 years later, I can look at that whole industry and go, hey, look, all of this has been covered. Visa, MasterCard have this angle covered. Bank of America and Fidelity and FIS have this angle covered. I don't play a role there. I don't have a bank license. I can't actually operate there. And these fraud solutions over here, they've achieved something. But look, there's this big gap right here that Gary looks at and went, hey, why is that problem there? And there will be in every large industry. This is probably worth $100,000 if you attended a seminar to learn this lesson. I learned this when I was 32 years old. In every industry, and the bigger, the better. In every industry, there is always a white elephant. Just like in every family, there is a white elephant, personality, an uncle, an aunt, a brother, a sister, an ex-husband, whatever, an ex-wife, an aunt who is a crazy bitch. She's crazy Karen. Everybody knows she's crazy Karen. She's going to show up for Christmas lunch. Nobody has the guts to tell her no, but she's going to disrupt the show. So there's always one of those, and that's the white elephant that no one talks about. In every industry, there is a white elephant problem that people have accepted, and this will be we're going to do a show on this. The characteristic, you will know that there is a white elephant when someone looks at you and says, oh, Gary, it's just the cost of doing business. That problem's been here forever, It's just the way it is. Well, when someone says that, I want you to notice a couple of things. One, they're making money from it, usually. They're literally making money from this problem, and this is why they can't see this. They're like, oh, no, this is necessary. No, this is no longer necessary. In fact, if you're making money from it, it actually then supercharges my interest because I'm like, here's a problem, and there's profitability for someone. Let's go attack that if it's not efficient. In the case of the energy markets, it was basically changing the entire methodology by which energy could get priced and the trading mechanisms for that. And that sounds like a really, really hard job to do. But once you looked at the white elephant problem of the old system, it became very easy for us to build optionality, ideas, constructs that we could go to people who had this problem and offer them solutions. Remember, white elephant problems are problems people want to solve. They just don't want to talk about them. Okay, they don't, because they've accepted it as a normal problem. These are areas that are really, really cool to look into for businesses because most people don't think about it that way. Most people think about solving a new problem. Maybe I'm just not smart enough. I don't need to be smart enough to solve a new problem or create rockets or create a new drug. I'm not smart enough for that, so I get to go look at areas that I can improve in and that I can improve the environment. And this is what brings me to Bitcoin. Bitcoin offered me, one, my ability to look at markets and learn from them and study them and understand, hey, I'm looking for the white elephant. Now, I don't really think about it that way. I think about it in terms of I'm looking for a gap or a problem where I can exploit that problem. By exploit it, I mean take advantage of it and close that gap. If there's 30 cents in that gap and I could grab 10 or 15 cents and improve the environment by 15 cents for the rest of the people and nobody got hurt, that has to be a good role for me, right? Scalable. I'm not taking anything from anyone. I'm adding. I'm no longer a vendor as a cost factor. I'm actually bringing solutions to the table. Now, Bitcoin being first, I got to watch it for 13 years, everybody attacking it and no one coming close. And by the way, all of it is narrative. Hey, we're going to build this. Look at our protocol. Oh, we're really doing something good. You're doing something good if you're doing something. You're not doing something if we're building a protocol for the year 2040 when real estate can tokenize. That's not a product today that I want to get in today. Do I believe real estate's going to be tokened? Most certainly. Is it going to be tomorrow morning? I think real estate's going to get tokened after crude oil, right? Tokenized. So to me, tokenization equals fungibility. Fungibility being defined as this cup is identical to every other cup that this company made, right? They're literally 6 ounce or 4 ounce, whatever this is, boom, piece of plastic, got a little logo on it. In fact, I could probably save myself some money by removing the logos. I don't need these. I believe everything you see on my desk behind me, except for the art, and maybe even the art will get replicated, but everything sitting here, pure commodity, okay? When I saw the internet in 2005, I saw the internet not through the lens of looking on Amazon, but from the lens of a merchant and payment facilitator. And I remember seeing about 30 people in a trade show in Las Vegas once, and they were all selling crap. They're all selling a bunch of stuff. And I'm looking at this stuff going, wow, where's all this made? It's all made in the same place, man. The greatest skincare products in the world, 70% of all the pure ingredients are controlled by one company in Switzerland called Dormer or Sederma or something. They own it all, dude. I can go to them tomorrow morning and give them $50,000 and build Gary Cardone's greatest shit, stick it on your face, and it is good as the greatest fashion providers on the planet. The only difference is it doesn't have a sexy logo on it. Okay, I am paying for this logo at least 30. Well, first off, the label itself costs 7 cents. So I can knock 7 cents off this thing immediately if I don't require a label, and I just know the product in here is good. Okay, which is about all the ingredient process is probably good for it. They're probably half lies anyway. Anyway, my point is sooner or later we're not going to pay for logo. It's the same product in here. Okay, electricity is electricity. No one is paying ExxonMobil. This is the problem with being first. ExxonMobil sold crude oil this morning for $72.38. The market is $72.38. They did not get a penny of premium for their name. Everyone on planet Earth has heard the name ExxonMobil. Everyone on planet Earth thinks ExxonMobil, the whole families, the Rothschilds and the other guy that created oil. All these people think that that crude oil, because it had a name of like ExxonMobil or BP, greater value. They used to sell it like this. Our oil burns better than their oil. Well, you can buy a barrel of oil from me right now for $72.38, and it burns exactly like Exxon. Now, why am I saying that? ExxonMobil can't get a premium for their oil. I'm pretty sure whoever sells this cannot get a premium for this coffee cup, man. No chance. Everything turns into a commodity. So that's my point. Why would I want to be first mover? Like, this is the mindset of some of the miners in crypto. I'm gonna get on the front end of the value chain and mine Bitcoin. Why would you want to do that? This is a weird market. I can buy Bitcoin cheaper than a miner can develop it. This is the piece. See, this is what I'm good at. I'm good at going into every piece of the value chain from wherever you start. This is a very good exercise if you have not done it. If you're in an industry, ask yourself, can you explain that industry from start to finish? Either from the consumption side or the production side. One or the other happens. A consumer says, gosh, I need something. And then typically that guy will go create it. He is the scientist, the creator, and the consumer. He had this idea, right? And then he launches it in the market and consumers buy it. In Bitcoin's case, I can buy Bitcoin for $65,000 right now. There's no chance of me putting mining facilities, capital together, finding locations. The people that are producing Bitcoin today at $65,000 started these mining businesses 4, 5, 6 years ago. They could have bought Bitcoin for $15,000 and just sat on it. With all the capital they've raised, I mean, we have one ATM on a miner. An ATM is the ability to basically raise money from your own stock. $200 million ATM that they can lean on every month until it's exhausted. Imagine if they'd had that $200 million, they'd just bought Bitcoin at 15 grand. This is a very, very unique opportunity. This is exactly why Mr. Saylor's not buying mining, and he's probably never, I would never say never, but makes no sense for him to become a miner. I don't think it makes any sense for him to become a bank and have that exposure, but being first is overrated. I have in another business, in the Node 40 business, there's 12 competitors that not only started before we did, but they raised an enormous amount of money. I think along those 12 companies, there was over, in the past 4 years, there was over 400 million in cash raised. Node 40, there's 12 of these companies, okay, including ours. So 11 companies raised 400 million. Node 40 raised less than 7. Something's wrong, right? When 11 companies raise 400 and Node 40 raises 7, and we will most certainly be a top tier, if not the top tier player, I would suggest that those companies not only were too early, there is no one doing accounting, tax, audits, forensic studies on crypto. Not yet. They're going to start doing it this year. I got into this space 3 years ago and knew we were a tad early, but knew that these people had been probably 4 or 5 years early. Their investors are pissed off. Their management teams, most have gone. They run out of runway and they have to pivot because remember, when you go first, you know, I'm reminded, I'm old enough to remember the first moon launch. If indeed we ever went to the moon, that's a whole different show. That's for my shows after 9. But the old story was, hey, 90% of the time, the space module was like literally correcting. Oh, we're 3 degrees off course. Oh, we're 2 degrees off course. Oh, we're 3 Well, I'm off course most of my life, right? Like my point is over there. As long as I keep my point, right, I'm going in this direction. These people, I think, a little bit like the Bitcoiner who thought, okay, in order for Bitcoin to work, we have to go peer to peer. Well, that's never been real for me. I've never believed that was going to happen. In order for Bitcoin to go through the system, it has to start with guys like me. Well, actually, yes, it does start with guys like a bit of anarchists. Those anarchists now, after a period of time, y'all have to go away. And this is what the Saylor point hey, look, the only people freaking out about Bitcoin being adopted in a different way than you thought are the anarchists. In order for Bitcoin to get adopted by the whole world, it gets started by anarchists. It then moves to more professional people, wholesale traders like myself, who will go in and go, I just want to accumulate. Then the banks, the super banks, the wirehouses come in, the investors come in, the custodians come in, and then in 5 to 6 years, we get to peer-to-peer and consumption, like where everyone understands Bitcoin. Without that middle step, there is no distribution. So we're all first right now. I mean, I believe what's happening right now in Bitcoin, one, unlike all the other examples I gave you, Bitcoin is truly a monopoly without any exposure to monopoly penalties, monopoly letters, antitrust letters. I mean, where is the DOJ going to send a letter telling Bitcoin that you are a monopoly, you are a one of a kind, the only property in the free world the universe has ever known? There's truly finite. And therefore, we're going to slap a monopoly wrapper around you and monitor you. Dude, I'm buying into a monopoly that has no monopoly, and no one sells it. I'm investing in a network of some of the most sophisticated people in the world. You want to hear a cool story? And I'm going to end here because I think this says everything about Bitcoin. I'm trying to get a hold of a senior guy inside of VanEck right now. I go into Twitter, I go on X, which, by the way, I would not even be on X if for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's really been the glue that kind of pushed me into this whole media world. I go on X, and hopefully I've created a reasonable enough reputation here and been consistent, and you can do the homework, that I can get away with this stuff. You cannot get away with this if you're just trying to, smash somebody and do PR. I mean, I get this on all these social media sites all the time, and I hate it. I just reached out and said, can anyone introduce me to a senior person, either CEO, CFO, or CEO of VanEck? I have something I want to show them, because I know they're heavily involved, or they're getting heavily involved in Solana, and we've been focused on Solana as a solution. Not as a solution, but we've been working on something directly on Solana. And 12 hours later, man, 3 emails, not emails, Twitter responses. Hey, man, this is Bob. I work at VanEck. Give me 2 sentences of what you want to talk about. I got meetings set up already. That's cool. Now, I didn't buy. I've never been a member of Twitter. I didn't pay for Twitter. See, here's a good example. I didn't buy Twitter the first time. I didn't even get engaged in any social media in the first phase of it. I didn't want to be that early. I didn't understand it. Then X comes along, and the one indicator that this was maturing and good for me was when Elon said, hey, I'm going to fire half the people and I need to charge. And the moment he said, I'm charging $20, I signed up the next day. One, I hate free. I think free is horrible. Most certainly, I'm not building a business that works on free. And see, that's the other thing. I don't want to be first because I want to see everybody roll out their pricing models. Like, I met a competitor yesterday who probably wants to sell this company or buy ours. I think people are figuring out, hey, we need to merge. Consolidation needs to happen in this particular analytics space because the more data you have, the better. But also the analytics that are required for this industry are so staggering. I'm not sure any one company can do it all. He's selling products for $49 and $90, okay, a year. That is like, I'm not doing it. You end up with a bunch of trashy clients, and you have to scale. You have to handle 3, 4, 5 million customers. And then I'm not even sure it's profitable business because these customers don't even know what they need and want yet. Okay, that's the other problem. The customer base on analytics don't really know what they need yet for Bitcoin, much less other cryptos. One other analogy. Okay, Bitcoin has a peculiar flavor to it in that there's also an industry inside the crypto industry that says we're Bitcoin only. Now, I think theoretically, and for maybe some service businesses, that could be a really good angle. But I think taking the tack of saying I'm Bitcoin only is really, really limiting you to an addressable market. I think you're addressable market too here. Now, could you be right? And Bitcoin is the only surviving digital asset in the world in 5 or 6 years? Possibly. But I actually think it's awesome for Bitcoin to have Ethereum, Doge, Solana, and every other all of them attack any areas in the financial system you can find a gap in, another big white elephant, that I would let them all go attack these gaps. Quite frankly, I think Bitcoin's not ready to attack all the gaps and fill them successfully. So wouldn't it be better off for other companies to be the first mover, soften the territory just like any military exercise would do, dude? If I'm going to invade a country, I'm going to soften a spot up until I can walk in a tuxedo and not even get my hair, out of frame. So I don't just walk in there with a spear and say, hey, let's launch, which, by the way, this was the Bitcoin strategy. Launch with a dirty old crusty spearhead and constantly tell the Fed you're going to put them out of business. I don't know how that's a good strategy. Dude, I'm not leading with my dick like that, okay? I'm going to get it cut off, and I got just barely enough to survive as a man as it is. So I don't want to get cut off early in the game, following some first mover who their strategy has not successfully worked. One last example, okay, and the Enron, people ask me a lot about the whole my saga with Enron. Not that I work for Enron, but I competed with Enron very, very aggressively, and many of them were my good friends, very, very smart people, the vast majority of them. Having said that, 100 people from Enron should have gone to prison. You do not create a Ponzi scheme like that with two guys. This is why I get so radically angry at this whole Hollywood thing. This is, by the way, I've been saying 100 people should have gone to prison at Enron since 2000, and I think I'm the last person that looked at their books. I have never seen worse books in my entire life. Okay, literally, I saw their books in Europe. They made money in one country. I'm not even sure they made money there, the way they were marking the books. But you don't commit a crime like that without a lot of people being involved. And my point on Hollywood is that for 30 or 40 years, since Enron's demise, and sooner or earlier than that, there's too much going on that people knew. People knew that's a club. It's a very tight club in Hollywood. They knew, and they should all go to jail. And most certainly, most will sit at the outer gates of heaven and in purgatory, if there is such a thing, for many decades. Knowing something, and for instance, well, I won't go there, but I actually left the public market in 2002 because I was like, hey, I have to lie to live in the public market now. It's become so toxic of how you report your earnings. For me, it's just, I didn't want to play that game. So being early is overrated. It's a lot easier for me to compete with something that's already up and standing than creating a whole new idea. So for you guys that think you need to be early, I've made all my wealth being last, but being really, really hyper-focused. And that's the key, okay? I'll take focus over timing every day. I think it's grossly overrated that you show up as the numero uno, the leader. There may be more advantage in having an opportunity to look at the landscape, surveying it, and figuring out, hey, there's some big gaps over here that other people haven't left. Just because someone goes into a new industry, don't assume they're tagging the deepest and richest. Usually they go attack the easiest problem to solve. And that is a bit of wisdom that if you just start looking at it differently, so many deals I see, and I see about 10 deals a week, they're all chasing another guy's idea, and it's just another thing. Instead of attacking it from a really, for instance, this idea of tokenizing, I think it's really a sexy idea, far sexier than Node 40. Oh, accounting and audit. Who wants to talk about accounting and audit? Accounting and audit will make money next year. Serious amounts of money. The ability to tokenize a non-fungible thing called a house, I just think it's early. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it means that someone could be 3 years early and run out of roadway and end up selling their company to someone that can actually, light that engine up when the market's really, really ready. So I'll end with that. I think it's overrated, and it's overrated, and the risk dollars related to being first are nowhere close to being 2 or 3 years later and being able to wiggle into that market and understand it and execute better, faster, and in a more aggressive manner. It also allows me the opportunity to go hire people that have been in the field for 2 or 3 years and learn some of their lessons. So I'll end with that.